Welcome to the Investor Fuel Real Estate Investing Show, where I interview the nation's top real estate entrepreneurs, industry leaders, and other amazing entrepreneurs to help educate and inspire you to take your business and your life to the next level. My goal is to add tremendous value to you during every single episode of this show. If you get value, I'd love it if you subscribe on your favorite podcast player, subscribe on YouTube, and my very favorite, please share this with your community so we can impact even more entrepreneurs. Let's start today's show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm here with my buddy Benson Juarez today. He is a jack of all trades, has all sorts of things you're good at, buddy. But we're going to be talking about technology and real estate today. On a recent show, we talked about AI and using AI. We're going to kind of further that as to how technology is changing the real estate industry and certainly changing it for real estate investors. So Benson, how are you, my friend?
Doing great, Mike. So
Good
happy
to
to
see
be
you.
with you. I love the studio.
Yeah, you were commenting on that. Our studios look similar. So I told you I always wanted to be like you when I grow up, and here we are. You got the memo. I got the memo. I changed my studio to look like yours.
I love it. Looks great.
It's coincidental, but so great to see you, my friend. So
Yeah.
we're going to talk about a few things today, but tech in real estate. There's obviously kind of a revolution going on, whether it's AI or just different technology improvements. And I've kind of made the joke a few times that when I first started in real estate, in 2008, I got started in a real estate investing company, and I came from a .com site that was very tech based. And I said it felt like, the Wild West. There was at that time, by the way, 2008, there were no CRMs for real estate investors. You had to just take some other contact manager and kind of bastardize it to work, or people were still using spreadsheets, or, you even remember a lot of people still just using whiteboards to have their deal flow on and stuff like that, right? So it's kind of come a long ways. But before we jump into that, tell us your background. Tell us a little bit more about you.
Oh, everything has changed so much. I was very active in 2008 as well. Do you remember a platform? I think it was called Sharkbait. It was almost entirely in like the foreclosure world. It was a CRM that we used for tracking foreclosures.
Okay.
And those were our contact records. And so we'd pull data from the county and filter it through this CRM. And so we could tell, and it would pull in different information and organize it for us so we could know when, once that notice of election and demand was filed, we had a certain amount of time. And we knocked on a lot of doors. We got a lot of deals from foreclosures. Oh, those are the golden days. But I got started in real estate in 2002. I was active duty military at the time, and I was listening to Carlton Sheets CDs and reading books and listening to CDs on my Walkman. And I just kind of caught the bug. And before my stint with the military ended in 2003, I started selling loans, which was like kind of my first experience working in the real estate world. Started doing hard money loans, got licensed as a real estate agent, started doing my own deals. But my first taste was just kind of the education piece of it. And then my money making started with slinging loans.
There we go. Yeah, if we have time today, I want to talk. That's another topic I want to talk about. It's just kind of multiple streams of income. I think, there's been this evolution of more investors needing to be licensed because their states require it, and more assuming it's coming, so they're getting licensed. And a lot of agents that are not doing the type of business that they would like, so they're becoming more of investors, and maybe also being loan officers, or lots of other kind of streams of income. But let's come back to that. Let's talk about tech. So how did you get into? Obviously, you're an owner of Privy. So how did you get into the tech space? How did that kind of evolution come about?
Well, I went to school for technology. I got my degree in computer information systems from Colorado State, Northern Colorado, Fort Collins. And I wasn't the smartest person in the class, but I always had the business mind, right? Yeah. And that's what was great about this curriculum for computer information systems is half the curriculum was CS, computer science, and the other half was business, which is I've always been good at. Building relationships, sales, management, the business development side of where I focus a lot of my efforts now. And so I was like really good at both, right? So I didn't have to be like the smartest programmer, but I needed to understand it so I could help design and implement and test out technology.
Yeah.
So I got it there, and then I never used my degree. I started a business doing nutritional supplements. I had nutrition stores. So it was kind of like GNC, but I was looking for other streams of income. So I incorporated a consultation element, and I would give people food plans and workout plans with their supplements. So kind of like a one-stop shop. Did that for many years. And then after I sold my share in that company, and I was going to go and launch my own nutraceutical company to have my own brand of supplements. And right before that ended, went back to school to get a master's degree in business, and then 9/11 happened. Now, I'd already been in the military as a reservist for many years. That's how I paid for school, but got activated, and then had to do a 2-year stint of active duty, going to different places around the world and supporting the nation that way. And then really started to get educated in real estate, got that piece going. And then I didn't really come back to technology again until 2010-ish, when I met my current business partner, Scott Fall. And we're both doing REO properties through a brokerage, where we were getting first look at bank-owned properties. And we were looking for a way of automating all the tedious stuff we had to do on a daily basis to find, analyze, and track investment properties. And that was kind of the birth of Privy. But that was the evolution of it, all the way back.
What year was that? When did Privy start?
We were beginning the concepts of building Privy in 2010.
Okay. Cool. So let's talk a little bit about how technology has evolved for real estate investors. I mean, one of the things that's happened is it's making a previously very inefficient market more efficient, which is good for the industry, not necessarily good for the people. Who it's worse for, I think, are the people that are willing to accept technology, because they're like, that's not how we used to do it. It's like, well, you're going to get left in the dust one way or another, right? But let's talk about like how tech is changing the game, and maybe we can start by talking about some basic things like task management, process management, stuff like that. Like, tell us a little bit about how tech's changing the game from creating SOPs and just like all that kind of back office side of the business.
Yeah, it's unfortunately, I think where people make their money in real estate, it's really in the sales side of things, like going out and finding the leads, the acquisition of deals, the analyzation of those deals, and then what you do with them after, the disposition, whether you keep it as a rental or you wholesale it or you manage it in some way. But where people get caught up in the weeds and where most people fail is in the administration, like the early things, the things that tracking leads, the follow-up, right? We all know the money's in the follow-up. And so that's where I think a lot of tech has excelled, and why there was a boom the last 4 or 5 years in the CRM world. And with the foundation of like Go High Level, being able to have anybody can have their CRM now, right? And we saw that. We saw a boom of everybody and their mother had a CRM that was built on Go High Level. I don't know who came out of that carnage, but it was, people, it was something that was popular. And they were like, oh, I don't have to be a developer to build this. And so they thought, okay, well, this is a new revenue stream I can create. I'm already doing the things. This isn't completely separate from what I'm doing, but maybe it's a vertical integration. Right? Yeah. I use it myself and it works, and maybe I can sell it.
Yeah. And I think just all that back office stuff, like, everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people have different sales processes. They're very different at building rapport. Like how they communicate with people is very different. Their skills are very different as a salesperson. But the back office stuff, people are different as well, but it tends to be the types of things you can standardize pretty easily, right? And for a lot of people that are notoriously good at sales, they're notoriously not good at the administrative part. So they appreciate a standardized process that they didn't have to create, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
You've got an SOP book that you created for the investor fuel community, which is just so powerful. It's, it's like that whole EOS system, like that foundation of the entrepreneurial operating system. Yeah. Right. And that there's some standardized things that you can customize, which you did for for your group. But there's a lot of stuff that you can transfer to any industry, and it'll still work, whether it's technology business, or if it's just a sales organization, or if it's something in the government. I mean, well, maybe probably the government's not using any SOPs. They probably say they are, but there's no
They're
efficiency
probably
coming
about
out of
30
there.
years old. I have a feeling that some of that's going to be changing for the next few years.
Yeah, it's true. So, yeah, you're right. The back office, the administration, they're saving a bunch of time and money there, which allows them to focus on money making activities, which is helping a lot of these organizations accomplish some pretty impressive things that maybe they wouldn't have been able to do a few years ago.
Right. Yeah. Or they're done inconsistently, for sure, because you have different people doing different things, and they've come up with their own processes. It allows you to kind of standardize it, right? So.
Yeah, and then there is still some hands-on stuff that has to happen, even if you have a technology platform, but it's so standardized, but now you can hand it off to, an executive's assistant,
Right.
or, a virtual assistant, somebody who is in a completely different country that you're not paying, $50 an hour to manage these things. It can be somebody you're paying $10 an hour.
Yeah.
Who has a degree. They just happen to live in an entirely different country.
Yeah, this is, I'll be saying this after the fact because this has been going on for years, but this is one of the big evolutions of having cloud-based systems that your team can be virtual all over the world and all access the same tool, because it wasn't always that way. Like you used to have to like get a VPN, and somebody could log in to your computer from afar, and if that computer like turned off, the person just couldn't work that day unless somebody could turn it back on. And obviously it's kind of crazy to think about how far we've come, but to have platforms that are cloud-based that everybody can access irregardless of where they're at.
100%. And that's part of the technology advances, but it isn't like real estate specific. It's just business in general. It's taking advantage of many of these things. Like you said, cloud-based technology. I just saw it was a Super Bowl commercial. They're talking about how T-Mobile's partnering up with Starlink to provide access, phone and internet to people who are out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And for years, decades, it's been almost impossible for anybody who doesn't live in an urban center to get good quality internet.
Yeah.
And that's all changing.
Yeah. Yeah, we have Starlink out at our ranch in East Texas, which is kind of the middle of nowhere. The cell signal sucks out there, but my internet in our house is better than it is back in Dallas in town. So we're super well connected out there, which is pretty cool. That was one of my big concerns is like, I love the idea of kind of being, quote, off the grid and feeling like you're a million miles away. But gosh dang, I need a good internet connection. And so we were able to get it with Starlink. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Everything's changing so fast.
Yeah.
And then the AI stuff is in the back of everyone's mind right now, right? Everyone's talking about AI, and DeepSeek made a big announcement last week, and NVIDIA and the stock market went crashing down, at least temporarily, because we just don't know where it's going to go. Like we thought we knew who were the first movers in this space, and now we're thinking maybe it's not. Yep.
Well, it's moving so fast that everything could change in a short period of time. So let's talk about tech on the marketing side. Like I have some thoughts on that because we have a tech company as well. But what are your thoughts on how technology is changing marketing for real estate?
It's simplifying it so much right now that really small organizations can now compete with large organizations. Mm-hmm. And small organizations are more nimble. They can pivot quicker. They can do a lot of things without having to go through all the bureaucracy and red tape. And they can implement some of these marketing automations more easily than some big corporation can. And so they can compete now. And so it's kind of leveling the playing field so that, some of these smaller companies that don't have the resources to hire like all the different marketing functions. You've got a VP of marketing, and you got the people below them, and then they have all their minions going out and doing these things. And now one or two people can run an entire marketing division within a company and get everything done. It has to get done. And it's really impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little biased, and I don't want this show to be about me, but on the Investor Machine side, we're really a data company that does direct mail. a platform that people think is like the buggy whip is direct mail, right? But it's the most consistent mail platform or lead gen platform for real estate investors, and honestly, anybody that's scaled up is using direct mail. But anybody could print mail. I mean, there's a ton of print houses out there. Not to knock anybody, a bunch of them are good friends of mine. But what really matters most is the data that's helping you generate the list. That's really kind of doing predictive modeling over who's most likely to sell and targeting those folks. I mean, that's been the evolution there from a tech standpoint, is really using tech and even machine learning to try to figure out who is most likely to sell because of some data that we curated, from lots of different sources and kind of mashed it together to try to predict who's most likely to sell.
So you created like a scoring system.
Yeah.
So you're taking, okay, well, there's some stuff that everybody has access to, right? Like, okay, someone went into foreclosure, right? So we got that list of people, and then you're cross-referencing that list with some other data out there. Maybe it's assessors data, like how long
we have like 40
property.
different lists. Yeah, we actually have like a whole data team. We have like 60 data miners that go into because a lot of the stuff is recorded at the county level. So
Right.
a lot of the data that we get is at the county level. You can't go buy it through, national sources. And so we create our own data. And then, we used to use probates and stuff like that, right? But there are some lists that we find that correlate way better with predicting whether they're going to sell than ones you would think. So we used to kind of have, a scoring system that was nationwide, but now it's different at the county level. So every county, our algorithm is different because we found that some data points are a better predictor than others in different counties. It's crazy. It's crazy to think that that's even possible when we first started this like 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's just how evolution works is you get in and you start to ask like, what if we could do this? Like, no, we could never do that. But as time goes by, it's like, hey, we figured out a way to do that thing,
But also too, like the data isn't standardized across even counties within the same state,
For
let
sure.
alone counties across the entire U.S. So
Yeah, for sure.
something that would be a good predictor of someone to sell a house in New York, that piece of data may not even exist in Dallas.
Right.
So
Yep.
yeah, you've got to get pretty granular if you want to keep putting out good stuff for your people.
Right.
But
Right.
60 plus data scientists or data people on your team is pretty impressive.
Yeah. It didn't start that way. It started with me, Jason Lewis, some VAs, and some Excel spreadsheets. But that's but now it's a whole different world. We've got 80 employees around the world and kind of cranking for folks. So yeah. But yeah, it's disrupting marketing for sure because it's a lot of marketing that's data driven, right? It's just is where the tech is at. Yeah. Let's talk about content creation. I think for a lot of people that have service platforms like Investor Fuel or Investor Machine or Privy, like a lot of those folks have used content like podcasts, I guess, just like this to kind of promote our brands and things like that. But more and more, there's real estate investors that are building brands to try to separate themselves in a market. And that content is, not only easier than ever to create because you just have to have a cell phone, right? But the editing and the production and all that stuff has gotten way easier through technology. So let's talk a little about how, investors that are using tech to create content or more of it or more appealing content or whatever it might be.
Yeah. Well, the content creation thing wouldn't even be a thing if it wasn't because of the explosion of social media and how we all become basically our own publishers.
Yep.
And so, in the olden days, the way you sold was just through your own sphere. So like you could only reach as many people as you could talk to at the meetup or, the networking event that you went to or the RIA. And that was about as far as you could get without spending some pretty big cash on just kind of traditional marketing channels. But now with social media, you could do one video and it can go viral and it can change the entire direction of your career or the direction of your company with just some good content that people like.
Mm-hmm.
And so now there's a lot of effort being spent on, content creation and, what do people want to hear? Not having to spend as much money on traditional marketing or maybe just having sort of like an omni marketing approach where you do all these different things in tandem. So maybe you are running PPC ads, but then that goes in conjunction with a piece of content that you push out through social media, and then you do a YouTube video, and then you've got a podcast. And so all these things working together can get your message out there, and people are hearing about you and your service from different angles. And it's reinforcing those multiple touches that you had to do the old fashioned way, which would take forever, right?
Yep.
7 to 10 touches for someone to take action through one channel. That's 6 months of time. But with multiple channels and the ability to create one piece of content, like a podcast, push it into some AI tool that chops it up into reels, adds captions, does all the SEO, and then all you got to do is push a button and it's distributed to all your different channels with very little work is so exciting. Like I'm loving the way that content creation has become so simple and anyone can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, more than ever, like I've always, when I'm hiring people, I usually go look at their social media content. I just want to see, is this person a weirdo? Like, how do they align culturally with the stuff that they're posting or sharing or saying, right? And I think that for employers, that's certainly been a thing for a while. But I think more and more with sellers, people that are trying to sell a house, if they find out who's coming or what company they're set an appointment with, are going out to look for, a lot of times, just people are showing who their team is or the About Us page, like who is the owner, who am I dealing with? And then maybe go, stalk them on social media as well to say, I'm going to sell a house here. Who should I sell it to? And it's like, who do I most align with? Or, it might be, do they have bad reviews or good reviews for their business? But it also might be personally, I'm meeting with Benson and I want to see what kind of person I'm going to let in my house to sit at the table and talk to about selling my house, right? Or an agent, even like, who am I going to list my house with? Do I see eye to eye with this person who's going to be representing me?
Yeah, I think more and more people are identifying with individuals rather than companies and brands.
Yeah.
And so, the person, just with the example of real estate agents, like they're not so worried about listing with Keller Williams or Remax or EXP. They're thinking about, okay, who's the agent that hangs their license at EXP?
Yeah.
And does that person have similar values? Do I know who they are? Do I trust them? Do I want to do business with them? And that was really, challenging in the past, if it wasn't just your own sphere. And so now you can use a piece of content from a podcast and put it out through all your social media. And now you're putting your personal beliefs out there, and you're showing who you are and how you think, and sharing your ideas with people, and that goes a long way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think, I hate to say it, but the political climate over the last few rounds of elections is like forced people to just like, I want to work with people that sometimes people really crave, I want to work with people that are different than me and have different thoughts. But I think more commonly people want to work with people that ideologically have similar views or beliefs to them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
And it's also coming to a point now where, I don't know how new this is, but people aren't afraid as much to talk about their political views as they were in the past. Like they would say, don't talk about religion, politics. When you're someplace networking, like there was like these taboo subjects you shouldn't talk about. But now those are some of the things that create, relationships. Like once you figure out how people are in their private life, that's what's creating bonds. But it could be a slippery slope. Like,
oh, for sure. Yeah. It could create those bonds or it could tear them down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this isn't so much tech-based, but let's kind of talk about this evolution of what I'll kind of call the hybrid agent, which is real estate agents becoming more investors because I think you told me ahead of time here, like 71% of agents did not, honestly, they didn't list it, but they didn't close a deal last year, something like that, right? And I think there's a lot of investors that are like, obviously real estate transactions are way down. So there's a lot of people that are agents that want to do more investing activity. And there's also a lot of investors that might either be required to get licensed now in their state because a lot of states have passed that over the past couple of years, and more coming, or they assume more is coming, so I might as well get licensed now. So there's this kind of merging together of the agent world and the investor world, and it's not, tech is probably driving some of that, I guess, or making it easier for sure.
Yeah.
But it's also just the idea of having more tools in your tool belt, right?
Oh yeah. And then it also goes with the multiple streams of income that you mentioned earlier too. So this transition that's happening now is a lot of, it's consolidation, because there are just so many agents out there that it was the 80-20 rule, right? 20% of the agents were doing 80% of the transactions. And that couldn't be more true right now, especially with the NAR lawsuit, where they said that, agents now are not guaranteed to get a commission on the buy side unless they negotiate it with the seller in advance, and their commission has to be pre-negotiated, basically. Mm-hmm. And so agents are now having to work harder to demonstrate value to their clients and not just be a glorified Uber driver who shows houses. Right. And so in kind of the retail space where, you got a first-time home buyer who's got an FHA loan who is going out and they can barely afford, the 3.5% they got to put down on an FHA loan, let alone pay the commission of the agent who's showing them. To communicate value to someone like that, where they don't even really understand real estate in general, is difficult.
Right.
But in the investor world, investors are transactional. They understand that if someone can help them make money, that's a good investment for them. And so there's like this, I don't know, say consolidation is one, but that's the past thing. There's more of like a redefining of what an investor-friendly agent really is.
Right.
And part of it is that I would rather work with an agent who's done their own deals. Like, they understand how to run the numbers, they understand the risks. They've been in my shoes before. Than an agent who has some 3-letter, acronym on the bottom of their business card because they took a class, but they've never done a deal.
Yeah.
So things are definitely changing, and with technology and data, it's easier now than ever for an agent to get up to a level where 10 years ago, it would have taken them years and years to become a local market expert in one market and be able to communicate effectively with an investor and actually provide value, where now that can happen in days because the access of the information, but also the ability to distill down the universe of data that's happening in, say, Dallas, Fort Worth, and really make sense of it and be like, okay, this is a market where we should go look for deals, and here's why, and here's what a deal looks like. It just wasn't like that in the past.
Right. And I think more than ever, investors who spend a fair bit of money on marketing to generate leads are like, hey, I have to find some other ways to monetize these leads, because they're not all going to turn into investment, deals for me to buy as an investor. But at a minimum, if I can make some money on it and help liquidate my marketing costs, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting. I've been licensed since 2005, and everything just changes so quickly. But there's this big movement right now to the world of retail being separate from the investor world. It was really just separate, and now there's a lot of crossover, and people on the other side of the fence now are trying to figure out how they can get into real estate investing themselves, because they see the opportunity, but also how do they provide value to their clients.
Yeah.
And if they can do that, then they can start to provide more value and get through these hard times when it's so hard to find a deal, where only less than 30% of agents did a deal last year. I mean, how is anybody surviving? Right.
Well, they've got to do other things. They've got to find other sources of income, right? So, it could be any of a lot of things, but some of them are turning into investors and not just agents.
Yep.
Yeah. I've always kind of said, I have a feeling there's a high number of people that are realtors or agents that think investors are slimy, but they all secretly want to be one. And by the way, there are some bad ones out there, but there's plenty of amazing investors for sure as well.
And then from the investor perspective, they're like, oh, I don't want to work with agents. They waste my time. They don't know what they're talking about. So there's like this weird kind of chasm between investors and agents. But really, if they were speaking the same language and the expectations were set properly, then they could live in harmony.
Yeah.
Cats and dogs living together.
That's right. Yeah. Hey, Benson, really appreciate you joining us today. How do people learn more about Privy? Maybe just take a moment and just tell us what Privy is and how they can learn more about it.
Yeah, Privy, it's a data platform, right? So we take data, and we analyze it. Maybe you didn't hear, but we actually finally got our patent. So we filed for a patent over 4 years ago on a comparative search algorithm that basically allows people who use our system to find deals automatically by leveraging what's called investor activity. So taking all of these closed deals that happen and using those as a model for what a successful deal looks like, and then reverse engineering it to find deals you can buy today. And so for many years, people thought, well, you can't find deals on the MLS, and the data tells otherwise. Depending on the market, it's anywhere from 50 to 70% of deals are coming from the MLS.
Oh, wow.
And so the reason why people didn't like that is because it was such a manual process where they had to go in, and if there was 100 new deals on the market tomorrow, they'd have to go analyze all 100 to find the 3 or 4 that were worth looking at. So you just wasted 97, 96% of your time on deals you're going to say no to anyway. So now algorithmically, we can eliminate all the stuff that has no data that says it's a deal, and then just focus on the ones that do, and then eliminate some of those outliers based off of our local market knowledge and, knowing our buy box. We can adjust it. So we built Privy many years ago as agents, looking for a way of automating all the tedious tasks. And then the plan was always to build an ecosystem where investors and agents can work together. And the data becomes the love language, right? That's what goes across these two worlds and builds a bridge where they can work together now. And as long as we can educate investors and agents and get them up to speed on the expectations on who handles what, then now as Privy, we can deliver these deals. We can deliver data to analyze any property, whether it's off market, on market. Off market leads is something that we do as well. It isn't something that we focus on a lot, but as far as low hanging fruit, being able to basically analyze the entire nation and find properties that you can write offers on every single day is where we really excel. And so we're partnering up with agents, and we're educating investors, and just creating this really cool place where they can operate together and everybody makes money.
That's awesome.
So if you do want to check it out,
more about Privy.
Yeah, you can go to privy.pro. And we actually just launched some new pricing. So now you can get Privy on just like a per state basis instead of just the whole nation. And that can cut the cost down for anybody who's just, getting started, or you've really niched down into a specific market. You can get local data access for a less expensive price.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we'll share a link down below in the show notes, everybody. So Benson, thanks so much for joining us today. Always good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, of course, Mike. Great discussion. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, everybody have a great day. Hopefully you got some value from today. Like, technology is going to continue to keep coming. So if you're not loving it, it's not going away. You got to find ways to integrate it into your business because you don't want to get left in the dirt. So appreciate you all. We'll see you on the next show. Thanks for joining us for today's show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing on your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. You can also check out the show's notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and even how to work with me directly one-on-one. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. See you on the next show.